The bell above the diner door jingled. Cold air rushed in. An old man stepped inside. He was thin, a little hunched, but his eyes sharp, steady. His gray hair was tucked neatly under a worn military cap. The faded patch on his jacket read, U.S. Veteran. The smell of coffee and bacon filled the air. A jukebox played low in the corner. A few regulars sat in booths, their voices soft, drowned by the clinking of plates. The old man walked slowly, cane tapping the tiles. Tap, tap, tap. Each sound echoed through the diner. He reached the counter and sat on a stool. His hands shook slightly as he placed the cap beside him. The waitress, a kind woman in her 50s, smiled. Good morning, Frank. The usual? He nodded. Black coffee. And eggs. Thank you, Mary. For a moment, everything felt calm. Ordinary. Safe. Then, the silence cracked. The door slammed open. A young thug stormed in, heavy boots thudding. Tattoos crawled up his neck. His leather jacket squeaked with each step. He didn't wait to be seated. He shoved past a couple eating pancakes and barked. Move. Out of my way. All eyes turned. The air grew heavy. The old veteran lowered his gaze but didn't flinch. The thug sneered at him. Well, what do we have here? Grandpa Soldier? What's that hat for Halloween? People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Mary whispered, Leave him alone. But the thug leaned closer, towering over the veteran. His breath reeked of alcohol. You think anyone cares about your wars? You're just old. The old man stayed silent. His jaw clenched. His hands trembled, but his eyes, steady as stone. The thug snapped. His hand shot out. Smack! The sound rang through the diner. The veteran's cap fell to the floor. A stunned silence. Cups froze halfway to lips. Forks clattered onto plates. Even the jukebox seemed quieter. The old man's cheek reddened, but he did not rise. He only whispered, Son, you don't know what you're doing. The thug laughed. Oh, I know exactly what I'm doing. Putting you in your place. But then footsteps. Heavy. Slow. Powerful. Thud. 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 The door swung open again. Leather vests. Boots. The sound of chains clinking. The logo on the back. Hell's Angels. And leading them, broad shoulders, burning eyes, was a man who looked straight at the veteran. His face hardened. Dad? He said. The thug froze. The diner held its breath. Who was this man? Why did he call the old veteran Dad? And what would the Hell's Angels do next? The diner went still. Not a sound. Not even a cough. The thug blinked, confused. He turned to the man who had just entered with the Hell's Angels. The veteran's lips trembled. His eyes softened. Michael, he whispered. The biker leader stepped closer. His boots thudded on the tiles, echoing like drums. His leather vest bore the words President, Hell's Angels. His jaw tightened as he looked at the red mark on his father's cheek. Who touched you? His voice was low. Dangerous. The thug tried to laugh, but his voice cracked. This old man? He was disrespecting me. Michael's eyes narrowed. His men spread out silently, filling the diner. Their leather jackets creaked. The smell of motor oil and cigarettes clung to them. The air thickened, heavy with tension. The waitress, Mary, whispered to herself, Oh Lord! Her hands trembled as she clutched the coffee pot. Michael leaned closer to his father. You okay, Dad? The old man gave a slow nod. I'm fine, son. Don't make this worse. But the thug sneered. Oh, what is this? Daddy's little biker gang? What? You all gonna cry together? One of the angels cracked his knuckles. Another dragged a chair out with a screeching sound. The thug swallowed but tried to stand tall. Michael's voice dropped to a growl. You slapped a man who served this country. You slapped my father. Do you have any idea what you've done? The thug stammered. I didn't know. That's the problem. Michael's fists clenched. His men's eyes locked on the thug, their faces carved with fury. The veteran placed a trembling hand on his son's arm. His voice was soft but firm. Michael, violence won't fix this. For a moment the sun froze. His breath slowed. His father's touch was enough to pull him back from the edge. But his eyes still burned. The thug laughed nervously, trying to save face. "Whatever, man. This is stupid. I'm leaving." He turned toward the door. But before he could move, one of the bikers stepped in front of him, blocking the way. Another stood behind. The thug was trapped. The diner's silence grew louder, heavier, like a storm about to break. Michael took a step closer. His shadow fell over the thug. "You don't just walk out. Not after this." The thug's lips trembled. His bravado faded. His eyes darted toward the veteran, then back to the sun, then to the walls filled with leather and chains. What are you gonna do to me?" he stuttered. The old man's hand gripped his cane tighter. His voice, calm yet commanding, cut through the tension. "Michael, let me speak." Michael hesitated. His men shifted, waiting. The room hung in the balance. The veteran looked straight into the thug's eyes. His voice steady, like a soldier addressing a recruit. "Do you know what respect means, son? Do you even understand the price of freedom? Or the blood spilled so you could sit here today, mouthing off in peace?" The thug opened his mouth, but no words came out. The veteran's voice grew stronger. "You think I'm weak because I'm old. But weakness is not age. Weakness is ignorance. Weakness is thinking cruelty makes you powerful." The words cut deeper than any punch. The thug's face flushed. His fists curled, but his legs shook. Michael's men leaned forward, ready for whatever came next. Then slam. The front door burst open again. This time, flashing red and blue lights spilled into the diner. Police officers stormed in, hands on their holsters. "Step back. Everyone step back," one of them barked. The room exploded into chaos. Would the police side with the thug, or with the veteran and his son's biker gang? The flashing lights painted the walls red and blue. Sirens wailed faintly outside, but inside the diner, silence. Only the sound of leather shifting and boots scraping the floor. "Hands where I can see them," the officer barked. The bikers didn't move. They stood like statues, leather vests gleaming under the harsh light. Their faces were stone, their eyes locked on the thug. The thug's lips curled into a smirk. "Finally, took you long enough," he said, lifting his hands. He pointed at the veteran. "That old man started it. Him and his biker buddies." Gasps rippled through the diner. Mary dropped the coffee pot. Crash! Coffee spilled across the floor, steam rising. The veteran didn't speak. He sat tall, back straight, eyes calm, his cheek still red from the slap. Michael stepped forward, muscles tense. "You're lying," he growled. His voice was deep, dangerous. He jabbed a finger at the thug. "This coward hit an 81-year-old veteran. My father." The officers exchanged looks. One of them, younger, frowned. Another, older, narrowed his eyes at Michael. The thug tried to twist the story. "Look, man, they're a gang. Look at them. Hell's Angels, right? Criminals. They were about to jump me. I had no choice." His voice cracked on the last words, but he kept going. "I'm the victim here." The veteran finally stood. Slowly, his cane pressed to the floor. His body trembled, but his voice, steady, clear, like a soldier at attention. "Officers, my name is Frank Miller, United States Army, retired. I fought for this country when this boy's parents weren't even born. He disrespected me. He hit me. That's the truth." The diner went silent. Even the officers froze. The weight of his words hung in the air. Michael's men stood straighter, their hands still but their eyes burned. One of the younger cops lowered his voice. "Sir, did he really strike you?" The veteran nodded. His hand touched his cheek. "He did." The thug snapped. "Don't believe him. He's lying. He's old, senile." Before he could finish, Michael slammed his fist into the counter. Thud. Plates rattled. Coffee cups jumped. "Call him senile again," Michael roared. His chest heaved, his eyes dark as fire. The officers put their hands out. "Calm down. Everyone calm down." But the tension was a beast now, alive, growing. The veteran raised his hand. Just a small motion, but it silenced everyone. Michael. Enough. For a moment, father and son locked eyes. Michael's breath slowed. His fists loosened. His father's calmness pulled him back from the edge again. The older officer stepped closer to the thug. Son, you got witnesses everywhere. You think they're all lying? The thug's smirk faltered. Sweat trickled down his forehead. His bravado cracked. But then he shouted. They're all with the gang. You don't get it. This is a setup. Chaos rippled again. The officers barked orders. Sit down. Everyone sit down. The bikers stayed standing. Silent. Unmoving. Like walls of iron. And in the middle, the veteran, tall despite his age, cane steady, eyes unshaken. But then, a quiet voice cut through the noise. It wasn't Michael. It wasn't the officers. It was a young man in the back booth. I saw it, he said, standing slowly. His voice trembled, but his words were firm. He slapped the old man. For no reason. The veterans telling the truth. The officers turned. Everyone turned. The thug's face drained of color. With a witness stepping forward, the thug's lies start to crumble. But would the police finally act? Or would the tension between bikers and cops explode first? The diner held its breath. Every eye turned to the young man standing in the back booth. His hands shook, but his voice grew stronger. I saw everything. The old man didn't touch him. The thug just slapped him. The room buzzed. Murmurs spread like fire. Forks clinked. Chairs scraped. The thug's face twisted. Shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. But the witness stepped closer. His sneakers squeaked on the linoleum. His voice didn't waver now. I know what I saw, and I'm not scared to say it. The older officer eyed him carefully. Son, you're willing to give a statement? Put it in writing. The young man nodded. Yes, sir. Whatever it takes. The thug's smirk shattered. He looked around wildly, like a cornered animal. His chest rose and fell fast. His fists clenched, then loosened, then clenched again. Michael folded his arms, watching. The Hell's Angels behind him stood silent, their presence heavy, filling the diner like a storm cloud. The veteran lowered himself back into his seat. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his cap. He placed it carefully on his head. His dignity returned, piece by piece. But the thug wasn't finished. His pride wouldn't let him bow. You're all against me. This is a setup. I'm not going down like this. And before anyone could react, he lunged. Straight for the witness. The diner erupted. Chairs toppled. Plates shattered. The waitress screamed. But before the thug's fist could land, Michael's hand shot out, steel fast. He caught the thug's wrist midair. Snap. The sound of leather and bone grinding. Michael's voice was low, calm, but deadly. You just made your last mistake. The thug whimpered, dropping to his knees. His bravado drained, replaced by raw fear. His eyes darted to the officers. Arrest him. Arrest them. They're attacking me. The younger officer shook his head. No. We saw you. The older officer stepped forward, pulling out handcuffs. The cold metal clicked open with a sharp snap. You're done, kid. The thug thrashed, but Michael let go. The officers pinned him down, cuffing his wrists. His cries filled the diner. This isn't fair. I didn't do anything. You'll regret this. But no one believed him now. The bikers relaxed just slightly. Some exchanged glances, their tension easing but not gone. They still stood tall, ready if needed. Michael turned to his father. You sure you're okay, Dad? The veteran nodded slowly. I'm fine. Thanks to you. Then softer. But you must promise me, Michael, never let anger rule you. Strength without control is just another kind of weakness. Michael's jaw tightened. His eyes glistened with something unspoken. Respect, regret, love. Yes, sir, he said quietly. The officers dragged the thug toward the door. His boots scraped the floor, his curses filling the air. But just as they pushed him outside, he twisted his head and spat out one last threat. You don't know who I am. You don't know who's coming for you. The words hung heavy. The diner froze again. Michael's fists clenched. His men stiffened. Even the officers paused. And the veteran, his face shadowed under the brim of his cap, whispered words that chilled the air. Then let them come. Who was the thug really? And what did he mean by, who's coming for you? The fight wasn't over. It was just beginning. The thug's words echoed in the diner long after the door slammed shut. You don't know who's coming for you. Michael's men shifted uneasily. Their leather vests creaked, chains clinked softly. Even the officers exchanged glances, their hands still resting on their belts. The veteran adjusted his cap, his face calm, unreadable. Don't let fear in, he said quietly, more to his son than anyone else. Fear is the enemy's first weapon. Michael nodded, but his jaw was tight. His fists flexed. He hated loose ends. Minutes later, the roar of engines thundered outside. Headlights pierced through the diner windows. Dozens of motorcycles lined the street. The ground shook with their rumble. Gasps filled the diner. Mary whispered, "Oh Lord, not more." Michael's men turned, ready. Their bodies stiffened like steel. The officers moved cautiously, hands hovering near their holsters. Then the door swung open. But it wasn't more thugs. It was another biker gang. Their jackets bore a different patch. Rougher, meaner, faces hardened by the streets. At their front stood a man twice the thug's size, tattoos carved deep into his skin. His eyes scanned the room until they landed on the veteran. Then he sneered. You laid hands on my boy. The diner's silence was deafening. The thug outside was his son. Michael stepped forward, placing himself between the man and his father. His voice was low, controlled, but edged with fire. Your boy slapped an 81-year-old veteran. My father. That's what happened. The rival gang leader smirked. Don't care. Blood for blood. The room tensed. The smell of sweat, coffee, and fear mingled in the air. Boots shifted. Knuckles cracked. The clash felt seconds away. But then, the veteran rose. Slowly, painfully. He used his cane for balance. His voice, though, carried the weight of years and battles. You think you're strong, but real strength isn't in fists or numbers. It's in restraint. It's in knowing when to stop a cycle before it swallows everyone. The rival leader frowned, caught off guard by the calm, steady words. The veteran stepped closer, his cane tapping with each step. Tap, tap, tap. I fought in wars. I buried brothers. I've seen men die for pride. Pride isn't worth your life. Or your son's. Walk away before you repeat mistakes you'll regret. The gang leader's jaw clenched. His men waited, restless. The tension stretched like a rope about to snap. Michael's hand hovered near his father, ready to pull him back. But the old man didn't waver. Seconds passed. Then, the rival leader let out a harsh laugh. You've got guts, old man. I'll give you that. He jerked his chin toward his crew. Let's go. Engines roared again outside. One by one, the rival bikers left. The diner lights flickered as the rumble faded into the night. Silence returned. Heavy. Fragile. Michael turned to his father, eyes wide. Dad. You could have gotten yourself killed. The veteran placed a hand on his son's shoulder. His grip was weak, but his words were strong. Or I could have saved lives. Sometimes the greatest victory is when no one falls. Tears brimmed in Mary's eyes. The young witness exhaled in relief. Even the officers looked shaken, yet moved. Michael's throat tightened. He nodded, finally understanding the lesson. The veteran lowered himself back onto the stool. He adjusted his cap again. Now, he said softly with a faint smile. How about that coffee, Mary? The diner let out a nervous laugh. The storm had passed, but the lesson lingered. Would you have had the patience and courage to face violence with restraint the way the old veteran did? Or would you have chosen revenge like his son nearly did?